If you're part of the Duchenne community, you know that the search for new treatments is a constant, hopeful journey. And lately, a really surprising name has been popping up, coming from a totally unexpected place, a drug called rapamycin. And that's the big question, isn't it? Could a drug that's famous in anti-aging circles really have something to offer a complex genetic condition like Duchenne? Well, that's what we're going to dive into. Let's follow the science and see where it takes us. So, first things first, we have to understand this connection because it is a bit surprising. This story doesn't start in a typical muscle disease lab. It actually starts deep inside our cells, with the biology that links how we age to the specific problems that muscle cells face in Duchenne. Okay, so to really get why rapamycin is even on the table, we've got to zoom way in, down to the cellular level. See, the lack of dystrophin kicks off this whole cascade of problems, and we're going to focus on a couple of key processes that get thrown out of whack. The first one is a process called autophagy. Now, the easiest way to think about this is to picture your cell's own internal recycling and cleanup crew. Its job is to constantly go around, breaking down and hauling away old, damaged parts to keep the cell healthy and running smoothly. It's absolutely vital. All right, next up, let's talk about mTOR. If autophagy is the cleanup crew, you can think of mTOR as the gas pedal for cell growth. When there are plenty of resources, mTOR is active, and it's basically shouting, grow, build, expand. But here's the thing. When that growth pedal is floored, the cleanup and recycling process, autophagy, gets put on hold. And this is where we run into a really big problem. Research is showing that in Duchenne, the lysosomes, which are the actual recycling centers where the cleanup happens, can get damaged themselves. You can imagine how that throws a serious wrench into the entire operation. So, let's put it all together. The big issue here is that in Duchenne, that mTOR growth pathway is basically stuck in the on position all the time. The gas pedal is constantly being pushed, and that means the super important cleanup process of autophagy gets shut down right when the cell needs it the most. So what if you could find something that could just gently lift the foot off that stuck gas pedal? Well, this is exactly where rapamycin comes into the picture. Its main job is what makes it so interesting to researchers in this space. You see, rapamycin is what's known as an mTOR inhibitor. Its entire job is to dial back that overactive mTOR signal. And by doing that, it basically allows the cell to shift its priorities, to move away from constant growth and get back to that all-important business of repair, recycling, and maintenance. It's this really elegant logical chain reaction, right? Step 1, rapamycin pumps the brakes on mTOR. Step 2, that allows the cleanup crew, autophagy, to get back to work. And step 3, the cell can finally start clearing out all that damaged junk that's been building up. Now, a great theory is one thing, but does it actually work? I mean, what does the evidence say? This is where we need to look at the actual preclinical studies that have been done in animal models of Duchenne. And you don't have to take my word for it. This quote from a key research paper really says it all. By boosting autophagy with rapamycin, researchers actually saw real, tangible improvements in muscle function in mouse models of the disease. And when they dug into the data from these mouse studies, the findings were pretty specific. They saw that the autophagy process was restored, and that led to better overall muscle strength and even improved heart muscle performance. I mean, those are definitely results that make you sit up and pay attention. And that brings us to what is, without a doubt, the most important part of our conversation today. How do we take this promising data from mice and translate it to the real world for patients and for families? This is where we have to shift gears from the scientific promise to the very practical and very cautious reality. Okay, I need to be absolutely crystal clear here. The information we're about to look at when it comes to dosing is not for Duchenne. It comes from a totally different field, longevity research. As of right now, there are absolutely no established clinical guidelines or protocols for using rapamycin in humans with Duchenne. None. Now, the only reason we're showing you this table from the longevity world is to give you some context for how this drug is used somewhere else. The big thing to notice is the frequency. It's not taken every day. It's intermittent, usually once a week. They do that to get certain benefits without the intense immune suppression you'd see if it were used daily, like for organ transplants. But again, and I can't say this enough, this is not a protocol for Duchenne. This slide really just lays out the massive knowledge gap. For longevity, there are some developing protocols based on observation. But for Duchenne, It's a total blank space. There are no protocols, no human trials, and no data. We just don't know if it's safe or effective in this specific population, what the right dose might be, or what side effects we'd even need to look out for. And even in the longevity field where it is being used, rapamycin is a powerful prescription drug. It's not a simple supplement. It demands really careful medical management. For example, it has to be taken with a fatty meal to be absorbed properly. And you have to completely avoid grapefruit because it can cause drug levels to spike to dangerous levels. And it always requires a doctor's supervision to monitor blood work. So after all of this, where does that leave us? We've walked through the really exciting science, but we've also looked at the sobering reality of what we don't know. The only path forward is one that balances that promise with a whole lot of patience and perspective. Okay, so let's just quickly recap the big takeaways. First, the scientific reason to study rapamycin in Duchenne is strong. Second, the results we've seen in mice are definitely promising. But, and this is the most important part, there is a complete and total lack of human clinical data for using it this way, and that means that any kind of self-treatment without medical guidance is incredibly risky simply because the safety data and protocols just don't exist. You know, this whole story leaves us with a bigger and honestly a more hopeful question. Rapamycin was discovered decades ago for something completely different. It really makes you wonder, how many other existing drugs just sitting on pharmacy shelves right now might be holding undiscovered keys to treating rare diseases? It shows us that sometimes the answers are waiting in the most unexpected places.